My name is Ashley Schneider. I'm the president and founder of a nonprofit called MS Run the US. We do endurance running across America for multiple sclerosis fundraising. And I founded the nonprofit in 2009 because my mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis before I was born. I'd been a lifelong runner, and that all came together when I was 24, and I got the idea to run across America to try and raise $500,000 for MS research.
Okay, I just wanted to interrupt real quick to say what's on all of our minds, which is hot damn. That is one impressive human being. I remember meeting Ashley for the first time at a CrossFit gym, and I recall thinking, that is one cool human, and I bet she has some interesting stories. Since then, that sentiment has not changed, and we talk a lot about that in the interview. We talk about how she started her charity and where the inspiration for that came from, what she was thinking about when she ran across America, and how she gets through a lot of her races. And by the way, that run across America for her was 3,288 miles, which is insane. And I'm going to stop talking now so that we can get into this interview and I can share it with you, and I'm really excited. Okay, bye!
I did run across America in 2010. I became the 16th female to ever complete that feat. And then I went on to create America's longest relay run, which is still an annual event that my nonprofit does today. And we continue to do it for MS fundraising, financial aid support, and supporting research as well. So that's a little of who I am in a nutshell.
That's a lot. Really good things. How long is the relay? Is that also all the way across America? Or is
It
that
is all the way across America. It almost travels the same exact route that I did. I ran from San Francisco to New York, and the relay runs from Santa Monica to New York. And the reason I moved it south is because northern Nevada is very, very desolate. I ran across Highway 50, which is called the loneliest highway in America, and it is the loneliest highway in America. They don't have service stations for 150 miles. So that part of the reason that we run across America and part of the core values of what my organization does is awareness for MS, the disease, and just bringing it into more of the conversation. So I figured if awareness was important, then I should move the start to areas where people are. So we moved it south to Santa Monica. We run through Las Vegas, and the route meets up with my original route across the country. The relay route meets my route in an area called Vernal, Utah, which is right around our fifth segment of the event.
how many miles is that?
For the relay, well, it's approximately 3,200, give or take. Mine was 3,288, and the relay is about 3,260 miles.
Wow. That is that is an ultra marathon if I've ever heard of one.
It's 125 consecutive marathons.
How many days did that take you to complete originally?
I ran 24 miles a day, 6 days a week for 6 months. I started on March 22nd in San Francisco, and I finished on September 28th in New York City.
I have so many questions.
Let's hear them.
What made you decide? I totally understand the want to like get the word out about MS, and I think that that's really amazing. But why run across America? Why was that the first thing you kind of thought of?
So I'm going to say that it was an idea, an epiphany that kind of popped into my mind. So I really feel it was a gift from God. And I was 24 at the time. I had graduated college and had my degree in exercise and sports science. And I was traveling around the world on cruise ships. And it was an awesome job. I was teaching rock climbing and surfing and going literally all over the world. It was amazing. And I had been a lifelong runner. So I grew up loving running, and that was also a gift I was given. And it was coupled with watching my mom lose some of her abilities from her MS. MS is a disease that affects the communication between the brain and the body. So it attacks your body, attacks the central nervous system. And for everybody, it can be different. that has the disease. And my mom specifically had poor fine motor skills. Endurance was an issue for her. So fatigue, MS fatigue is a thing. And then she had kind of cognitive dysfunction, brain fog type of things. So I was young and I grew up watching her lose her ability to ride a bike, to water ski, but she had just the best spirit about her. She always found a way to look on the bright side, to be joyful. That's not to say that she ignored the adversity that she was going through, but she didn't dwell on it and she didn't have a lot of self-pity. And so as I was growing up, I was drawn to running. I was drawn to fitness and exercise, which is one of the reasons I got my degree in exercise and sports science. So I was in Spain, Barcelona, and I was running on the treadmill one morning. I had done a couple half marathons, but I mostly hung around in like the recreational area of running anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. I hadn't done a marathon. I wasn't terribly interested in running a marathon. I didn't really have a purpose to. And I was also 22, 23, 24. So I wasn't spending a lot of time running more than about an hour. And I was meeting people on the cruise ship that talked a lot about America and seeing America and where had I been and what had I done. And I kind of just went through school and left America to travel the world. And I realized how many people wanted to come to America to travel it. So that was kind of the travel component of running across the country. And then it was, I was getting off into ports and seeing a lot of these different cities I was going through. So people would get off in the cities and they would do a designated tour of the city. I was getting off in the city and going running. And so I knew that running was a really good way to see locations. So that kind of paired with me wanting to see America. I was in the middle of a run, so the endorphins were flowing. I started imagining what it would be like. I'd lived in Colorado for a little bit, so I started imagining what it would be like to run from Colorado to Wisconsin, where my home was. And that just kind of, I was like, well, if I run from Colorado to Wisconsin, how far is it across the country? And I hadn't heard of anyone running across America at that point. It was a completely novel idea to me at the time. And so then I was like, I bet I could run across America. And I felt like it was something notable that I wanted to do. And when I thought to do it for my mom, that was everything tied together. And I thought, this is what I'm designed to do. I love running. I love traveling. My mom has MS. And at that time too, and still a little bit to this day, but at the time, MS was it was a disease that took so much from my family. And it caused, even though my mom had a great spirit and she really lived the best she could with it, I mean, there were just some really terrible experiences that were extremely painful. And I grew up knowing my mom was sick and that she really couldn't care for me in a capacity that I wanted my mom to. And so that kind of caused a lot of internal pain. And so when I thought to run across America, it was empowering to me. It was as powerful to me as what the MS disease had on my life. And I thought, okay, now I have something big enough that I'm going to fight this disease with, and I'm going to get out there and talk about it. We weren't a charity case family in any way. So it was like, yes, my mom has this disease. Yes, it is really shitty and not a lot of fun, and it's caused a lot of pain, but look what we can do. And for me specifically, look what I can do. I can run across America and I can raise $500,000. So that was really the motivating factor. And when I thought to do it, I was like, I'm going to do it now. I learned from my mom that you can't wait for the right time, the perfect scenario. She got diagnosed with MS when she was 27. And so I thought, I'm not going to wait for anything. I'm just going to do it right now. And I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to move back to Wisconsin in January, which is a horrible idea. And I'm going to start training to run across America. So that's what I did.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I can imagine something like that. If you have this uncontrollable like thing happening in your life, it gives you need to do something. There needs to be some kind of energy or action to like give you control again. So then how long did it take you to train for that?
It was 17 months. Well, I
Okay.
mean, if you want to say technically speaking, I was always training. I grew up running. And so I think base miles when it comes to running are super important, especially when it comes to endurance events. The more base miles you can get, the better. The more base miles before you really get into like the nitty gritty of training in terms of the hard stuff, the hard runs, the long runs. the interval training, the intense strength things that you should be doing as a runner. Base miles are just the clean and easy miles that you put in, so your body is used to the pounding. So I've been doing that since I was real young. I always just liked doing distance, as I mentioned. So when the idea came to me, I feel a really good base on mileage. Now, I hadn't had really the distance, right? Like I grew up running, so my body understood running. And so when the very first thing before I quit my job is I tested my ability to do it while I was still working on the cruise ship. So immediately I started doing 2-a-days. I would do at least an hour to an hour and a half of running in the morning, and then I would go back and do the same amount of time in the afternoon or evening. I did that for maybe 10 days. And after 10 days, I actually started to feel stronger, not more sore. I mean, I was sore, like my joints ached a little bit and I could feel that I was working more and running more miles, but I was not falling apart. And then I started to feel stronger. And so I knew at that point, it was just a matter of time. It was a matter of putting in the longer miles. And I knew that I could run across the country, especially when I was thinking about how to do it. I was going to break up the marathon every day into 2 half marathons. So I thought if I do, like 13 to 15 miles in the morning, and then rest, eat, nap in the middle of the day, and then do the remaining miles in the afternoon. If I didn't have anywhere else to be or anything else to do, it seemed like there would be a lot of time to put in about 5 hours of running every day. And so when I was training, I got home and I just started doing longer miles. And that's when I got into ultra running. I hadn't heard of ultra running before. I found ultra running very quickly, and Wisconsin, specifically where I live, southeastern Wisconsin in Milwaukee, there's a lot of ultra marathon events around here. And there's a whole niche community that meets in the woods and goes to run for 6 hours at a time. I just started showing up, asking questions, looking at the gear that people were wearing, and it's so fun. The ultra community is basically, at least in this area, and I've seen it carry over into a lot of different areas, it's like show up in nature, run for an hour, eat some Oreos, run for more time. If you're in a race specifically, there's like aid stations, and the volunteers they're unmatched. They're amazing. They have like soup at the right temperature. It's not too hot, so you can't drink it. It's not too cold, so it's not disgusting. It's like perfect. They know all of the tricks. They're the biggest and best cheerleaders. They're the best cheerleaders at like 2 a.m. And so I just it was easy to show up and want to hang out with these people because they run for a bunch of time and then they celebrate with like a beer and a brat afterwards. And then everybody goes home and I'm like, okay. That it seemed a little bit more friendly. And even though it is competitive, there's a lot of competitive ultra marathon runners, but they seem to be really chill and friendly. Whereas my perception of road racing was very intense, very specific, very dialed down. You get on the line and you focus and you don't really, jive with people at the starting line. So I really liked the community, the ease of running, and how simple they made it seem.
I mean, what do you think when you were running across America and when you've done some of these ultras and you have, I mean, those moments on the most desolate road in America, what are you thinking about? What is going through your head?
So, I don't know. I just think about it's kind of like, and a lot of runners say this, it can be just a form of meditation. Like what bubbles up? What do you need to think about? What do you need to sort out? It worked really well for me because I was actually pretty angry about my mom's MS and pretty hurt. And running gave me an outlet where I could just work really, really hard and I could feel really good about it. And it felt like the anger and hurt was sorted out in the process of running. And it's also a place where you tend to be very present. If you're at like a comfortable pace, you can think about whatever pops up. But if you're hurting, like you're pretty present in what's going on and paying attention to like your body and breathing and using your mechanics in the right way and relaxing your shoulders and what do you need next to make you, specifically when endurance running, what kind of like nutrition or hydration do you need to continue going? And so it can keep you really present. But I think when I was running across the country, I mean, there was just like 1,000 thoughts, any thought that you could think of, but I was going at a pretty comfortable pace for me. I wasn't trying to break any records. I was really trying to find a good pace that I could sustain for 6 months that wouldn't cause injury, which is what I ended up doing. I was really happy with the whole plan of my run across the country. But I have had a few races where my mind went to like, why am I out here? I don't want to do this. I want to quit. What am I doing? Where's the next aid station? How do I get out of this?
How do you then overcome that?
There was one race that I wanted to quit. It was a 50 miler and it started at 10 p.m. and I hadn't done any night training. So I wasn't prepared for the absolute darkness and solitude that you feel in the woods. And I'm a pretty introverted, solitude happy person, but you just feel different when you're running at night and when there's not the sunlight, and you have different hormones that your body produces in the evening through the night. So I wasn't prepared for that. And I did actually want to quit. I came into an aid station and I think it was probably about 30 miles into the event. And I told them I was done. I didn't feel like being out there. They were trying to rally me. They put on Thunderstruck and were like, like they were doing a slow clap for me. They were trying to like get me riled up, but it coincidentally was at an aid station where I couldn't, it was like a desolate aid station. Some of the aid stations are points where like they can bring a truck in or bring a car in and drive you out. But this was like, you're going to have to still walk the 5 miles to the next station to get carried out of here anyway. So you have to leave this aid station. And I wasn't injured or anything. So there was no need to give me medical care. So I went out into the woods. I started walking away from the aid station because I was so embarrassed that they were trying to cheer me up. And I was just like, no, I was not having any of it. And so I walked out to the woods just past where like the lights were glowing. And I stood there and I just looked back at the aid station, like, what am I going to do? And then another runner started coming down the trail and they were super happy. And they were like, what's going on? How are you doing? And I was like, I don't want to be out here. This is literally the worst thing. I don't know why I thought I would want to run through the night. This is the worst. And they're like, hey, you know what? When the sun comes up, you're going to feel totally different. We're an hour and a half from sunrise. Like you just have to stay out on the trail with me till sunrise. And I guarantee if the sun comes up and you don't feel any better, you can quit. But I know that when the sun comes up, you're going to feel better. And that's what happened. Like the sun came up. I felt 1,000 times better. I made it to the next aid station with this runner who talked to me the whole time about nothing. I don't even remember what they were talking about, but I was just kind of like, all right, run with this person and they're distracting me and this is all good. And got to the next aid station and I felt good. I was like, all right, they were right. I can finish this thing. And then I finished. So I think what I learned too, and my husband's an ultra runner and he says this a lot too, is like his phrase is there's always more running. Even if you feel like you're at a super, super low point, I think it's important to identify if it's an emotional low point or if it's a physical low point. So if you're physically injured and your body is breaking down and you physically shouldn't leave the aid station, then don't. I mean, we just had a friend that was attempting a 100-miler and it was really hot and they hadn't gone to the bathroom in hours and hours and hours. So they had to get an IV, like there was to the point of like, if you go back out there, your kidneys could shut down type of situation. So that you don't leave the aid station, you sit there and you recover because it can be that intense. But if you're emotionally just feeling low and you don't feel like it, my best advice is to keep going and see how long you can stand that feeling, because there's a good chance it will lift and there will be more running.
That's really good. That also reminds me that I should probably do some night running. Like late into the night.
Late into the night, I would do anything that you think sounds like a horrible time. I would do that.
Good advice.
Like if the weather's bad, like go out and run. Yesterday it was 40 degrees and rainy. Like if I was doing a 24-hour, I would go out, put on what gear you have and go and try and run for 3 hours. Like, if you know that you have low energy at 2 p.m., put your shoes on and go running. Seek out all of the bad opportunities when you're going to feel like crap and then go do it. Or heard of Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a really good mentality. Like he's obviously an extreme. you
Yeah.
know, but like I believe that people could carry over themes into their own life without getting crazy. So he was the one I was going to recommend to you.
That's actually not a bad idea to go back and revisit that book because I think he has stealing souls is what he calls it.
Yes.
That I think is really good. He's got a lot of really good stuff. So I'll go back and actually revisit it. That's not a bad shout. I did just want to come back. You kind of mentioned when you were doing the run across America that you had a lot of anger. And I was just curious if you were able to pinpoint how your anger changed.
I think my anger actually changed when the idea came to me. So it wasn't necessarily, it was like once I had a solution, once I had something to do, and something you had said previously is that when you have pain or you have something like that, there needs to be an actionable item, and doing nothing is an actionable item. So I was always doing something with it. I was just kind of like, we were a little isolated as a family. We kind of kept to ourselves. We didn't want to complain or draw attention to my mom's MS. I mean, we had friends and we were a friendly family, and I'm a friendly person, but I wasn't extremely social in lots of communities and groups. We weren't doing any of the MS fundraising that other families do right away when they find that they're affected by MS. So I think it wasn't like a hot anger. It was like a hurt anger. And life is unfair anger, and this sucks, and there's nothing we can do about it. And so I just kind of was like doing my own thing and taking the opportunities that were put in front of me and living, I was doing really, I had a really great life. I had just graduated college. I lived in Colorado for a little while. I was traveling around the world. So I think the anger turned into something a little bit more like empowerment, and then also feels now more like, I don't want to say we were blessed with my mom's MS, because it's certainly not a blessing, but you can take really crappy situations and do the best that you can with them and have really wonderful experiences that you can be grateful for because of them. So that's really what MS Run the US and my running across America did for me.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I can imagine. Did you want to add anything else? I mean, you're a huge inspiration. This has been a really insightful conversation. I really appreciate your time. Um, yeah, is there anything else you want to add? Anything that's kind of come to mind?
I just always push the nonprofit. If this sounds like something that is really intriguing, I always encourage people to go check out the website. It's msruntheus.org. We are running across America right now. Actually, we're in Utah in our 4th segment. We started the event in the first week of April. And so if you are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube are all the areas where you can see our runners, and we are putting out content every day.
Thank you so much again, Ashley. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for
Of
all
course.
the work that you're doing.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to see how it comes together.
So if you've been following along and you watched the first video that I put out, you may have clocked that the date that I'm publishing this video is technically after the race that I signed up for that I was meant to run. And you would not be wrong. That is true. And I did sign up for that race, and I did start it, but I did not finish the full 24 hours, and I didn't really come close to my goal. What happened is that I stopped at about hour 17, and I did 43 miles total. You could add 3 additional miles if you count the miles that I ran off course, and I eventually got back on course. So 46 technically, but the more important piece of that is I stopped at hour 17. What happened then was I just was in a lot of pain, and I was looking for any excuse to stop. 2 days later, after I finished the 17 hours, I wasn't really sore. And I knew, I didn't push myself really past my limit. And I thought that I had hit my physical limit, and I definitely didn't. So there's a big mental component here. And I'm going to make a whole other video about what happened with that race and what it was like and everything. And it's going to be coming eventually. But for now, what I'll say, because it's relevant to this interview, is I filmed this interview with Ashley before I did the race. And I rewatched it after I did the race. And there was something specific that really stood out to me in what Ashley said, which is whatever you don't want to do that thing. And I understand now precisely why, because I wasn't prepared for the pain that I was going to feel in my body. And it wasn't really even an injury pain. I kind of suspect it was a combination of inflammation, lactic acid, and a lack of sleep, and just an emotional sensitivity to everything that was going on in my body. And what I'm doing now with my runs is I'm taking that advice really to heart. If there's an hour of the day that I really don't want to run, I'm going to run, or I need to run. If there's a hill I really don't want to run up, or it's not even technically on my route, I'm going to run up that hill, and then I'm going to run down, and I'm going to try to run back up it again. Because what I realized in that race and from this interview is the thing that I really, really need to be building is mental toughness. I've always considered myself a mentally tough person, but this race taught me that I'm not quite as mentally tough as I'd like to believe and make myself out to be. So I have an opportunity here to show up and try again, and I'm really excited for that. I was also a bit embarrassed, to be honest, to record this. I guess what I want to say is that there's always something to learn with failure, right? It's hard now, or an unpopular now, to fail live on the internet because there's a fear of all the things that people are going to say about you. And that fear exists. I would much rather feel the fear of what other people are going to think about that. But really, that's my own ego getting in the way anyways. Do it again and see what happens. So I just wanted to say that this conversation with Ashley was really insightful the first time around. It was even more insightful the second time around. And I think a lot of these things, it's going to be much easier to digest and process and put those into application if you're working on something hard or you're doing something hard. In theory, it's good to talk about all this stuff, and these ideas can be really potent, but they mean so much more, in my experience, when I'm actually working towards something. So I just wanted to offer you that reflection. I hopefully will report back and say that I have in fact finished a 24-hour race. But all I can do is take it one day at a time and see what happens. Thank you so much for joining in on watching this interview. And yeah, peace.